Mary Wright in the Keweenaw, November 2nd, 2023. Carnegie Museum, Houghton, Michigan.
Good evening. My name is Faith Morrison and I'm board chair of riseUP, recognizing the importance of women's suffrage everywhere, UP chapter. When we heard last year that the Beaumier UP Heritage Center at Northern Michigan University would be assembling an exhibit in honor of artist Mary Biekkola Wright, we were excited to know that this tribute to Mary would take place. The exhibit ran this summer in Marquette as Mary Wright, a public art retrospective, and many of us were able to see the exhibit in Marquette in summer 2023. This fall, I received an email from Elise Nelson, director of the Carnegie Museum of the Keweenaw, letting me know that the Beaumier Center was offering the Carnegie Museum the chance to host our own tribute to Mary, and she asked, would riseUP like to help? We said yes, and here we are opening the exhibit here in Houghton. To distinguish this exhibit from the Beaumiers, we call it Mary Biekkola Wright in the Keweenaw, and we added artifacts and context to give an emphasis to Mary's work in the Western U.P. Welcome. Mary Frances Biekkola was born in Lens on January 25, 1941. She graduated from Lens High School in 1959 as class president, and after graduation attended the Holy Family College, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, the University of Wisconsin, Madison, and Northern Michigan University, where she received a master's degree. Mary found her calling in the mid-'80s when she began conceiving and creating art projects that both contributed to her communities and brought members of the community together. Over the decades and in many UP cities and towns, she created murals, the blue and white chairs, heritage poles, and so much more. In the Keweenaw, Mary organized the Heikinpäivä Mittens, the Storyline, and the Sunflowers Across the UP project associated with riseUP, our local organization that celebrates the women's suffrage centennial, an organization she founded. How did she do it? Many here in the room knew Mary, and you all know how she did it. She was tenacious, creative, insistent, charming, brilliant, striking, fearless, and relentless. All traits often associated with artists who make a durable mark. The exhibit tells this story, and thank you for coming to take a look at the Beaumiers and the Carnegie's work to honor Mary Biekkola Wright. That's enough from me. Let me introduce the director of the Carnegie, Elise Nelson, who will talk a little bit, and then we will take shared stories from those of you here who would like to share an anecdote.
Famously, but also, I don't know if any of you remember, but she was responsible for all of the decorations that went on the Christmas tree that was at the White House. It was cut in the UP, and so Mary came around and she got all my students to make these really beautiful artistic ornaments that then traveled to Washington, D.C., and I think it was during the Clinton administration, but I'm not sure. Anyway, that was way back then. So, Mary was always coming up with ideas. The Mint Project, my sculpture students did, this really elaborate iron metal thing. And she also, specifically out of fiber, she had this idea about a shoe project. She was going to do this big shoe project. And so she came in with this photograph of this Italian shoe, and she wanted my students to make it 6 feet by 6 feet. And they did. We made this big shoe sculpture, and it was really gorgeous and gaudy. And she took it, and I don't know what happened to it, and that never happened. I mean, Mary she was a visionary. She told me actually, Because I remember when she was getting everybody together and getting all of those chairs from all over the UP, everybody's attic. She was really finding absolutely every old chair that was in the UP that was possible, and getting places where people would paint. And she said, you know, I had this vision of all of these blue and white chairs marching to Marquette for FinFest. She was a visionary. She really was. She was a visionary. She needed us all to help her make her vision possible. She made a lot of people mad. She exhausted people, but honestly, she was a gift to all of us. I'm going to stop talking, but I want to say one more thing. She had the most incredible art collection. She had the most incredible collection of art from the UP. Yeah. And when she moved here, and she was living on that second floor of that yellow house on Quincy Street, and started the Hancock Book Club, which still exists, I was teaching a Finlandia Success class for freshmen, and so I got them into the mine, and I got them over to Gemignani's for pie, and Tony was talking about the Italian connections in the history in Hancock. And I also had my students walk over to Mary's house and go in and sit in her space among all that art and hear her talk about it. And I just, because I never throw anything away, I just unearthed one of the, I had the students journal. And you walk up and you walk in, and the place is dazzling. Everything you sat on was a work of art. Everything you set anything on was a work of art. You looked around and he said, if you lived here, you would never get bored. And you would never be depressed, And I mean, what an impact on an 18-year-old hockey kid, So, I don't know, I'm so grateful. I mean, there's so many other Mary stories, and honestly, Mary and my father ended their life in the same place, which was Bayside Village in Lawrence. And so I saw Mary a lot when I'd go and visit my dad, and I'd always sit, and she had never had television and cable, or I don't know, but they had cable and Bayside Village. So she took over this TV room, and she was on it. She was watching, she was just soaking up all this great public TV, and holding forth, and she was having oh my gosh, she was getting things out of the kitchen and making these headdresses. And she had this colander that she had things sticking out. She was on it all the time. That's her art. Thank you, Mary. And I know you all have wonderful Mary stories, but I'm so grateful to have known her.
Cheers.
I did get the privilege of visiting Mary at her apartment, and it was everything you said. It was quite overwhelming. And then she came as the speaker at a forum for the Keweenaw Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, promoting one of her projects. I can't even remember what it was now. And talking about herself, and was, interesting and entertaining, as you would expect. And she used a phrase that I had never heard before. It's familiar to us all now, but it was so apropos to Mary. She said, "My motto is go big or go home."
That's true.
Well, I have a short one too. I'm the gallery director over at Finlandia, and I had this last minute cancellation in my schedule, so I had no artist, empty gallery, and I was sitting talking to Denise Vandeville, who was the dean, and we were bantering ideas, and we said, well, let's put on an exhibit of people's collected art from this area. And so all I did was walk into Mary's apartment and took everything off the wall and get over to the gallery, and it was a really incredible exhibit, so that was fun.
What year was that?
I wish my brain worked
In the
that way.
2000s, okay. Bill.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
This isn't a story, but it's an idea for all of us. I came here because of the amazing creativity and courage of this woman. She is an inspiration still. But, we tend to be old people. Sorry. And I feel like while we're still around here, we have to do something to keep Mary's spirit alive. And so I would like to see something, an art object, a prize, a monument, whatever it is, created that's in this woman's honor, so that the ideas and inspiration that she gave, I mean, this art it's enough. You look at it and you can see nobody else did stuff like this. Nobody else. And we want more. We're in a place where the environment is right, the heritage is right, the local pride is there, but it's submerged. It needs to be brought out in the open, and especially young people need to see what she did. And so I hope, I'm not going to do it, but I hope we can generate something really cool for Mary Wright, because we miss her and we need her, even though sometimes we didn't like her.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yeah, a couple of short stories. One is the first time I had encountered any of the work that Mary Wright had done. She had done the grandma doors in Marquette. And my dad and his wife had come up to visit me. It was late in the summer, early fall, around that time frame. And we'd gone to Marquette for the day, and I didn't realize that the exhibit was there. And we took a walk along that whole riverfront, or lakefront, where the park is, where they had the doors set up. And I was just blown away. I mean, I could have stayed there easily for another hour reading all the stories. The second story is I really met her in person through Rise Up. And I am the perfect example of every descriptive that everybody just said about Mary. Because I went to her place, and she wanted me to take her somewhere, I think to a bookstore or something. And, I was
That's always the first step.
talking about art. And I said, I'm not a creative person. I barely ever got a B in all my art classes. I love creativity. I admire creativity. She set me up on a project. The young couple that used to own Fifth and Elm, she had me do a family bench for them, with each of them represented on the bench. And she went with me. We went around and got all the goodies together and the clothes to make the characters. And I took pictures of them and their children and their daughter at the time, and decoupaged the faces, cut out the boards and everything. I mean, it was intricate. And she had me go down to the waterfront. And this is November, early December, to get driftwood. Freezing my tail feathers off. With a trunk full of driftwood to add to the bench and stuff. So, and then she'd call me every other day. So how's it coming? When are you going to have it done? And so we got it done and took it over for the family. I don't know what happened to the bench after they had left the Fifth and Elm, but that was a perfect example of every descriptive that everybody had about Mary.
I would mainly want to ask a question, because what Bill Rose just said is really important. Not to talk about myself too much, but I started volunteering at the elementary school, and let me say, the elementary kids need something. I could get all choked up. I mean, these kids, some of our kids are having a really tough time.
Yeah.
And Mary was very aware of this. When I met her, I'm a transplant. First, I used to just see her walk through downtown. As she was a walking piece of art herself.
Oh, take a look at the poster in the corner.
So
There's a
I
nice.
met her in front of Walker when the storyline went up, and she happened to be there, and I happened to have this conversation with her. that just blew me away. And the story I was reading blew me away, and we had such a conversation about that one story, and that was from a younger person. So my question is, all these projects required supplies. Where did the money come from? Was that Michigan Arts Council?
Oh,
They do
beg, borrow, and steal, I think.
Yeah, everything, I mean, when I did that project, let's get the money.
Well, the Michigan Arts Council does, are interested in something like.
She
with
did
Bill
write,
Rose,
she
maybe,
did
I don't
write
know.
grants, but she also spoke directly to people who had supplies and then asked them again and then asked them again and then asked them again and then kind of took it, you know, like Frank Fiala here had some storage space and before he knew it, it had been volunteered by Mary and occupied by
Well, I
Mary.
after meeting her, and she does have an energy for someone, for some people, that maybe does wear you out. You're taken aback. I mean, I took her to Fifth and Elm, down when it was downtown. She loved your place. She couldn't. I took her there once, and oh my God, I was getting coffee. Let's go there again. She loved your place. There was something about, well, the community there, maybe, but she liked.
So you know, on the back wall, first of all, on the TV is a short video done about the Storyline project in conjunction with UPRA. And then on this wall to the right of it is a tribute written by Linda Belote, which I thought she was gonna come
She didn't
sing.
make it today,
But it's surrounded by photographs of Mary in her
Various
thrift store
outfits.
runway days. And, I mean, the outfits are amazing. And so that's there, you can go, those are documented.
So quickly, I mean, like this door, Teresa Goodell, a door for Teresa Goodell, oh my goodness. And I got to know Teresa Goodell, so it was like she had this incredible ability to connect projects with people.
So I'm gonna give some other people, maybe Frank, since people keep talking about you, you should hear from you.
Emily and I are gonna sneak out and we're gonna go see a movie at the theater there.
Yeah.
But, I remember the first time I met Mary, and that's when I was still working up in Calumet Park, and, one of the receptionists there came back and said there's a woman here that would like to meet you and talk to you. And I happened to be back in one of our rooms, and we just got this new Xerox machine, and we were back there kind of trying to set it up and doing this stuff. So around the corner, here comes this woman dressed to the nines, wearing a hat, and then she just came in and she just kind of took over. She says, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, we just got this new mimeographing machine, and she goes, oh, what, you know, could I get a copy? I need a copy. And I said, well, sure. And she says, well, I need 35. That was the start. So, you know, time passed, and I'm going to fast forward to our experiences at Fifth and Elm. After we had retired, you know, Mary, I think that was home base for her. She would come in every day, always dressed, always would sit there right at that front table and hold her court. And our patio became kind of her workshop, and all the storyline. I mean, we had more storyline hanging out there on the clothesline and the clothes. And there'd be people out there all day long working on those things, and Mary would be in there, you know, directing the traffic. Then the one thing that's not mentioned here that I brought up when we went over to Marquette was her sauna project. You remember that? Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So she came and she says, "You need some saunas here." So before long, there were 2 saunas in our patio. And people are saying, "What are those saunas there for?" And I says, "Mary Wright." And they said, "Say no more." and then it became with the sunflower stuff. I remember the day she told me about that. She goes, "Frank," she says, I'm gonna have sunflowers all the way on the highway to the Mackinac Bridge. I said, Mary, what? How are you gonna do that? She says, well, I don't know, but we're gonna get it done. And I says, well, okay. I said, well, how are you gonna pay for it? She says, well, we're gonna have people buy them, and it's gonna be about $100 a piece, and you have 2 of them. So that's how she operated, you know. And then before long, as Faye said, they were using Finlandia to put these things together. And then she came to me and she says, well, we got to get out of Finlandia because they need the space. Do you have space in your basement? And I says, well, sure. I says, I could probably put a few there. She says, how many do you have? She goes, we got to put 100 together. I says, 100? She goes, yeah, but I'm going to have somebody else come and help. As if like, well, wait a minute, you expect me to be there too? So before long, I got all these parts in our basement. You know, people are coming and going and putting them all together again. And she finally got all that done, and as a result, you know, there's still sunflowers out and about. And then, well, I know I said a little something about Norman and their relationship, you know, and that really kind of changed things for Mary. She was just, they were head over heels in love and all that kind of stuff. And one day, you know, Norman walked in with her. They would come in as a pair. And one day, Norman came in with, I don't know if it was a black and white checkered shirt or black and white checkered pants. I can't remember, but I remember he had white shoes on. And he walks in and I'm looking at him and I said, Norman, you know, what do you got on? But that's how they were. They would dress, you know, and all that. And it was just kind of real comical to see them. And then they'd sit down, you know, and Mary would always have this routine, well, I'm going to meet so-and-so here and they're going to pay. You know, and they may or may not show up. Mary would, anyway, she'd have her lunch. And one day Norman came in and he had this really, really neat shirt on. And I says, Norman, I says, where did you get that shirt? He says, well, it's from Hawaii when I used to live there. And I says, well, you know, you guys come in here all the time. And I says, I just want to ask a favor of you. I said, will you give me that shirt? And then 2 days later, he comes in, it was washed, it was folded, and he said, here it is. Wow. He gave me that shirt, you know. So that was always, and I wore that shirt in Marquette when we had that, and I also had a hat on. I wore the shirt in memory of Norman and the hat in memory of Mary. Mm-hmm. But I tell you, Mary Wright was one of a kind. I mean, every now and again in your life, somebody will come down that road that you never forget. And you just fall in love with them. And that was Mary Wright.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice. Yeah. 1 or 2 more speakers. Joyce.
Yeah, I was friends with Mary in the very beginning. I helped her find a place to live. Helped her start a book group, which is still going. And she was always wearing very short hair and this shirt that was covered with paint. Yeah. And she wore this all the time. This is like her signature. And I wish she were here because she would be very happy to know that so many people loved her. Yeah. I don't think she even knew that, how many people did that, because a lot of us got mad at her many times. But anyhow, I want to thank you for Mary, for all of you for coming and expressing caring for her.
Thank you. Okay, Beth.
Yeah, I'm in this famous book group that I didn't know that Joyce helped Mary, but at any rate that Mary founded, and for many years we met in Mary's room, we called it our room. She was the teacher. We had to select a passage. This was our homework. And then we had to come, and in turn, we would read our passages, and that was the discussion. It really did lead to a pretty rich discussion. One of her, it was difficult to choose a book because Mary had already read everything. Literally, I mean, she would say, no. I mean, we said, Mary, can we read books we've already read, you know? No. So it really was hard.
Again, thank you all for coming. We would like to thank the Carnegie Museum, the Western U.P Heritage Center, and Rise Up for their work on creating this exhibit. We would like to thank the generous folks who loaned us artifacts for the exhibit, particularly the owners of Storyline panels and grandma doors, and the creators of the Upera film, especially its editor, Erin Smith, who is busy tonight with her 41 North Film Festival going on now through Sunday at the Michigan Tech Rozsa Center. We hope you'll please go and watch some of the 41 North films. Carol Ekstrom was very generous with her time and her archive of Mary's papers related to the storyline. The materials she provided were essential to our telling of Mary's story. And we'd like to thank all those who helped Mary to create her works over the years. Thank you for what you created for all of us. Mary passed away on November 15th, 2021 at Bayside Village in her hometown of Lance. Mary's legacy continues on not only through these physical works, but in the memories she created for so many people and in the Upper Peninsula heritage she helped to preserve and bring to life. And enjoy the exhibit and each other.